I am Emma Smith, 36, and literally last month, my rep as a self-made tech billionaire backfired. The empire I'd worked my butt off to build solid? It blew up into a deadly betrayal aboard our yacht during a supposed celebration cruise. Derek, my husband of 10 years, and Vanessa, my younger sister, straight up demanded I hand over control of my company's finances, and when I clapped back, the deck went dead silent. "You're tearing us apart, Emma," Vanessa yelled, with everyone, crew, caterers, even the captain, staring like I'd just cursed the ocean itself. But here's the tea, their shade didn't break me, it lit a spark. I'm not just pushing back, I'm about to flip the script and change everything. A quick note. This story is copyrighted by the YouTube channel Guest Stories. Reposting, revoicing, or editing this content without permission constitutes copyright infringement. Thank you for respecting original creative work. Now, back to the story. The Pacific sparkled under the late afternoon sun, waves lapping gently against the yacht's hull as I stood at the railing, gripping a glass of champagne I hadn't sipped. The breeze tugged at my hair, and I tucked a loose strand behind my ear, trying to ignore the knot in my stomach. This was supposed to be a milestone. My company, Nexlify, was weeks away from an IPO that would cement my legacy. I'd built it from a dorm room coding project into a tech giant, and tonight was meant to celebrate that with the people I loved most. Derek had insisted on this trip, calling it a family reset. Vanessa had echoed him, her smile too bright, her hugs too tight. I should have seen it then, the way their eyes darted to each other when they thought I wasn't looking. I adjusted my dress, a sleek navy thing Derek had picked out, and scanned the deck. The crew bustled, setting up for dinner. Caterers balanced trays of canapes, their white gloves pristine. I caught my reflection in a polished chrome panel, sharp cheekbones, tired eyes. I'd been up late finalizing investor reports, my fingers still tingling from the keyboard. Derek approached, his polished loafers clicking on the deck. "You're not mingling, Em," he said, his voice smooth but edged, like a knife wrapped in silk. He slid an arm around my waist, and I stiffened. His touch, once warm, felt like a leash. "I'm just taking it in," I said, forcing a smile. My eyes flicked to Vanessa, laughing with a group of Derek's business friends near the bar. Her red dress clung to her like a second skin, her gestures animated, but her glance toward me was cold, calculating. I sipped the champagne, the bubbles sharp on my tongue, and wondered why her laugh sounded like a warning. Dinner was announced, and we moved to the dining area, a long glass table under a canopy of string lights. The scent of grilled lobster and rosemary filled the air. I sat between Derek and Vanessa, my plate untouched as they dominated the conversation. Derek leaned forward, his cufflinks glinting. "Emma's been working so hard," he said, his tone dripping with mock pride. "Barely has time for us anymore, right, V?" Vanessa smirked, twirling a lock of hair around her finger. "Oh, absolutely, all those late nights saving the world one app at a time." The table chuckled, but the sound grated against my nerves. I clenched my napkin under the table, my knuckles whitening. I'd spent years building Nexlify, sacrificing sleep, friendships, even my health, while they lounged in the glow of my success, never once asking how I did it. I tried to steer the conversation. "The IPO's going to be huge," I said, my voice steady despite the pulse hammering in my throat. "It's a game changer for the industry." Derek's smile tightened, and Vanessa's fork paused midair. The silence that followed was heavy, like the air before a storm. I pushed on, describing the tech, AI-driven solutions for global supply chains, but their eyes glazed over. A waiter refilled my glass and I noticed his hand tremble slightly. Odd, but I brushed it off. Then Vanessa leaned in, her perfume cloying. "Emma, maybe it's time to step back. Let someone else handle the big stuff." Her tone was sweet, but her words landed like a slap. Derek nodded, his hand brushing mine, cold and deliberate. "She's right, Em, you're spread thin, we're worried about you." His concern felt rehearsed, like lines from a script they'd practiced. I set my glass down, the clink loud in the quiet. "I'm fine," I said, my voice low but firm. "Nexlify is mine. I built it." Vanessa's lips twitched, and Derek's jaw tightened. The table went still, forks hovering, eyes darting. I felt the weight of their stares, the crew's, the captain's, even the ocean seemed to hold its breath. I stood, my chair scraping the deck. "Excuse me," I said, my heart pounding as I walked toward the railing, needing air, needing space. The stars were out now, sharp against the black sky. I gripped the cold metal rail, my breath shallow. Something was wrong. My head felt heavy, my limbs sluggish, the champagne. I hadn't drunk much, but my vision blurred at the edges. I turned, catching Derek and Vanessa watching me, their faces unreadable. My phone buzzed in my clutch, a text from my assistant Mia. Board meeting moved up. Urgent. I fumbled to reply, my fingers slow, when Vanessa's voice cut through the haze. "You okay, sis?" she called, her tone mock concerned. I tried to answer, but my tongue felt thick. The last thing I saw was Derek's silhouette against the lights, his hand reaching for me as the world tilted and the ocean rushed up to meet me. The cold hit me like 1,000 needles, the ocean swallowing me whole as I plunged beneath the surface. Salt water flooded my mouth, my nose burning my throat as I kicked wildly, arms flailing against the dark current. My dress tangled around my legs, heavy and restrictive, pulling me down. Panic surged through me, my heart slamming against my ribs. But even as I fought for air, fragments of memories crashed in like waves. Years of being sidelined, dismissed, invisible in my own life. It wasn't just this night, it was a pattern, etched deep from the start with Derek and Vanessa. I surfaced for a gasp, coughing, my limbs already numb from the chill. The yacht's lights bobbed distantly, shrinking as the current dragged me away. I treaded water, my breaths ragged, and in that desperate scramble, my mind latched onto the past, as if piecing together why this betrayal felt inevitable. It started back in our family home, that sprawling estate in Silicon Valley where Vanessa and I grew up. Dad was a venture capitalist, always chasing the next big deal, and Mom played the perfect hostess. Vanessa, 2 years younger, was the golden child. Pretty, social, effortless. She landed internships through Dad's connections, parlayed them into a boutique marketing firm that catered to influencers. "Vanessa's got the touch," Dad would say, clapping her on the back at dinner parties, his voice booming over the clink of wine glasses. I'd sit there, pushing food around my plate, my fingers itching to code on my laptop under the table. At 18, I built my first app, a simple tool for optimizing supply chains, and sold it for 6 figures. I remember bursting into the living room one evening, check in hand, my face flushed. "Look what I did," I said, waving it like a flag. Dad glanced up from his newspaper, his glasses slipping down his nose. "That's nice, Emma, but Vanessa just closed a deal with that celebrity. 6 months of campaigns. Real impact." He folded the paper, turning to her with a grin. Vanessa smirked, twirling her fork. "Yeah, sis, apps are cute, but people want stories, not code." Mom nodded, her hand on Vanessa's arm, while I stood there, the check crumpling in my fist. That dismissal stung, but I pushed through, enrolling in Stanford on a scholarship. Nights blurred into code marathons in the dorm, my eyes bloodshot from screens, fingers calloused from typing. Derek entered the picture sophomore year, a charming business major with a smile that could sell ice to Eskimos. We met at a startup mixer. He leaned against the bar, nursing a beer, and asked about my project. For once, someone listened, or so I thought. We dated, married young right after graduation. He started his own consulting firm, advising on mergers, while I bootstrapped Nexlify in our tiny apartment garage. Flash after flash hit me as I bobbed in the water, my arms aching from treading. One Christmas stands out. 5 years into our marriage. We'd gathered at the family estate, the tree towering with ornaments, fire crackling in the hearth. I'd just secured a major patent for Nexlify's AI algorithm, a breakthrough that could revolutionize logistics. I waited for a lull in conversation, my hands clasped in my lap. "I got the patent approved," I said, my voice steady. Derek paused mid-bite of turkey, his knife scraping the plate. "That's great, Em, but hey Vanessa, tell them about your new client, the fashion line launching in Paris." Vanessa lit up, launching into details, her hands gesturing wildly, rings flashing. The room hung on her every word, Dad laughing, Mom beaming. My patent? Forgotten in seconds. I excused myself to the kitchen, gripping the counter until my knuckles whitened, hot tears pricking my eyes. Why did my achievements always fade into the background? It wasn't just family gatherings. Derek's dismissals crept in subtly at first. Early on, he'd praise my work ethic, but as Nexlify grew, his compliments turned barbed. I'd come home late, exhausted but buzzing from a successful beta test. "Another all-nighter?" he'd say, lounging on the couch with a whiskey, his tie loosened. "You know, Vanessa's firm just hit record profits without burning out. I'd force a laugh, pouring myself a glass of water, my hand shaking slightly. It's worth it, I'd reply. But inside, doubt gnawed. He never asked for demos, never celebrated my wins privately. Instead, he'd steer conversations to his deals or Vanessa's social climbs, her galas, her network of important people. Vanessa's successes were always the spotlight. She married a hedge fund guy briefly, divorced with a fat settlement, and spun it into an empowerment brand. At her launch party 3 years ago, held at a swanky rooftop in LA, I arrived in a simple black dress, clutching a gift, a custom app I'd coded for her client management. The crowd milled, champagne flutes tinkling, laughter echoing. Vanessa air-kissed me, her perfume overwhelming. "Emma, you made it. Derek's over there charming the investors." I handed her the USB drive. "I built this for you. It'll streamline your ops." She took it, tucking it away without a glance. "Sweet, thanks. But check this out, we just signed a deal with a major influencer agency." She waved over a group, introducing me as my sister, the tech whiz, but the conversation veered to her triumphs. Derek joined, his arm around her shoulder in a sibling-like hug, praising her vision. I stood on the periphery, sipping soda, my smile plastered on as they toasted her. Later in the car home, Derek sighed. "Vanessa's killing it. You should collaborate more. Her flair with your stuff." I stared out the window, streetlights blurring, my throat tight. Even as Nextlify scaled, hiring teams, securing funding rounds, their praise stayed superficial. I'd share metrics over dinner. "We hit 1 million users today." Vanessa would nod, checking her phone. "Cool. I just got featured in Forbes' under 40 list." Derek would high-five her across the table, his laugh genuine, while mine echoed hollow. I started keeping successes quiet, building in silence, but the invisibility ate at me. Why did their conventional wins, networking, deals, appearances, trump my innovations? Dad's death 2 years back amplified it. His will favored Vanessa's proven business acumen, leaving me scraps despite my contributions to family investments. In the ocean's grip, these memories fueled my kicks, my will to survive. The yacht was a speck now, but anger burned hotter than the cold. They'd always overlooked me, but no more. I spotted distant lights, fishermen's boats, and swam toward them, each stroke a rejection of their shade. The lights flickered like distant stars on the horizon, bobbing with the swell of the waves, and I fixed my eyes on them, forcing my arms to slice through the water in rhythmic pulls. My breaths came in sharp gasps, salt water stinging my lips, but the fury from those old slights propelled me forward. As I swam, the cold seeping deeper into my bones, my mind drifted again, not to the dismissals this time, but to the fire they'd unwittingly ignited. It was in those moments of being pushed aside that I'd found my real power, building Nextlify in the shadows, turning isolation into an empire no one saw coming. The aha hit me one rainy night 7 years ago, alone in that garage apartment, rain pattering against the tin roof like impatient fingers. I'd just come home from another family dinner, the kind where Vanessa's latest breakthrough deal stole the show, some influencer partnership that had Dad toasting her with his best scotch. Derek had driven us back, humming along to the radio, oblivious or uncaring as I stared out the window, my fists clenched in my lap. The apartment door clicked shut behind me, and I kicked off my heels, the cool tile grounding me. Derek headed straight to bed, muttering about an early meeting, but I couldn't sleep. The dismissal burned, a hot coal in my chest. I paced the small space, the fridge humming softly, and stopped at my desk, a cluttered mess of notebooks, cables, and my laptop. That's when it struck. Why beg for their validation when I could build something undeniable? I sat down, the chair creaking under me, and opened my code editor. My fingers hovered over the keys, hesitating, then dove in. The idea had been simmering, an AI platform that could predict and optimize global supply chains in real time, using machine learning to foresee disruptions. I'd tinkered with prototypes at Stanford, but never fully committed. That night, fueled by rejection, I coded the core algorithm. Lines blurred on the screen as I typed, my eyes narrowing in focus. If-then statements cascaded, variables defined with precision. By dawn, the rain had stopped, and I had a working model. I ran a simulation, inputting mock data from a shipping company, and watched the output. Efficiencies jumped 30%. My heart raced, palms sweaty on the mouse. This wasn't just an app, it was a revolution. But the struggle kicked in hard after that high. The next months were a grind, my days blurring into nights. I'd wake at 5 a.m., brew coffee in the chipped mug Derek hated, its steam curling up as I reviewed code from the night before. Errors glared back. Bugs in the neural nets, data overflows. I'd rub my temples, the headache building, and debug line by line, my cursor blinking accusingly. Derek noticed the dark circles under my eyes. "You look exhausted, Em," he'd say over breakfast, buttering his toast without looking up. "Maybe ease up on the hobby." Hobby. The word twisted in my gut, but I smiled thinly, sipping my coffee black. "It's important," I'd reply, my voice even, while inside I seethed. Vanessa called once, her voice bubbly through the phone speaker as I paced the kitchen. "Hey sis, want to help with my firm's website? Nothing fancy." I declined, my free hand gripping the counter edge until the formica dug into my skin. They saw me as support staff, not a creator. I kept it secret, working in stolen hours. After Derek left for his office, I'd set up in the garage, the air thick with dust and oil from old boxes. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I iterated the code. One evening, a breakthrough, integrating blockchain for secure data sharing. I tested it, fingers flying, and it worked. Seamless, unhackable. I leaned back, chair wheels squeaking, a rare smile breaking through. But funding was the wall. I bootstrapped with savings, skipping lunches to save pennies, my stomach growling during late sessions. Rejections from investors came via email. Curt dismissals, interesting but unproven. I'd slam the laptop shut, pace the concrete floor, kicking at stray bolts. Doubt crept in, was this madness? But I'd reopen the code, fix a loop, run another sim. Progress inched forward. The turning point came at a tech conference I attended alone, slipping away while Derek thought I was shopping. In a crowded expo hall, booths humming with demos, I pitched to a venture scout in a quiet corner. My voice shook at first, hands gesturing to my laptop screen, but as I explained the AI's predictive edge, his eyes widened. "This could disrupt everything," he said, leaning in, his badge glinting. 2 weeks later, a seed round. $500. I signed the papers at a coffee shop, pen trembling, the barista's espresso machine hissing in the background. I didn't tell anyone, not Derek, not Vanessa. The money let me hire a small remote team, coders from online forums who believed in the vision. We collaborated via encrypted chats, my fingers dancing over keys during calls, voice modulated slightly for anonymity. Growth exploded quietly. Users trickled in, small logistics firms testing the beta. I'd monitor dashboards at 2 a.m., the blue light illuminating my face, watching metrics climb. A major contract with a shipping giant I negotiated via video, background blurred, my heart pounding as I clicked send on the proposal. Revenue hit 7 figures within a year. I funneled profits back in, expanding servers, refining algorithms. Derek noticed the extra cash in our accounts. I blamed freelance gigs. "Smart move," he'd say, patting my hand absently while scrolling his phone. Vanessa borrowed money once for her firm's expansion, her text casual, "Spot me 10K? Pay you back soon." I transferred it, my jaw tight, knowing my hobby could buy her out tenfold. By year 3, Nexlify was a beast, valuations in the hundreds of millions, all under wraps through NDAs and shell companies. I'd review financials in bed, iPad propped on my knees, Derek snoring beside me. The secrecy became armor. Their ignorance, my edge. One night, after a breakthrough update that pushed us to billions in projected value, I stood in the bathroom staring at my reflection. Bags under my eyes, but a spark there too. I'd done this alone, grueling hour by hour, code by code. No applause from them, but the success was mine, undeniable. Back in the ocean, that empire gave me strength. The fisherman's lights grew closer, shouts carrying over the waves. My strokes weakened, but I pushed on, each one a testament to what I'd built in the dark. They'd tried to erase me, but I'd rise, evidence in hand, to bury them. A rough hand gripped my arm, hauling me from the water's clutches, my body limp and shivering as I collapsed onto the deck of the fishing boat. Coughs racked me, salt water spewing from my lungs, while calloused palms patted my back. Voices blurred in Spanish, urgent, concerned, mixing with the engine's rumble and the slap of waves against the hull. One fisherman wrapped a coarse blanket around my shoulders, its wool scratching my skin, and pressed a thermos of hot tea into my hands. The steam rose, warming my numb fingers, but as I sipped, the warmth couldn't touch the chill inside. My mind, still adrift, latched onto the days before this nightmare, the subtle cracks I'd ignored in the facade of our life. It was the eve of the yacht trip, my company teetering on the brink of transformation, and I'd been too buried in work to see the storm brewing with Derek and Vanessa. That morning started like any other in our Malibu beach house, the sun filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting golden stripes across the marble kitchen counters. I stood at the island, scrolling through emails on my tablet, my coffee cooling untouched beside me. Nextlify's IPO was set for announcement in 2 weeks, a deal that would value us at $10 billion, partnerships with giants like Amazon and FedEx locked in. I'd spent the night finalizing projections, my eyes gritty from staring at spreadsheets, fingers still flexing from typing notes. The house was quiet, the ocean's murmur outside a constant backdrop. Derek emerged from the bedroom, hair tousled, in his silk robe, yawning as he poured himself a mug. "Morning, Em," he said, his voice casual, but his eyes flicked to my screen too quickly. He leaned against the counter, sipping, his free hand drumming lightly on the granite. "You're up early," I replied, closing an email from my CFO about regulatory hurdles. My voice was even, but I noticed how he avoided direct eye contact, glancing instead at the view. "Big day ahead?" He nodded, setting his mug down with a soft clink. "Just tying up loose ends at the office. Vanessa's coming over later to help pack for the trip." The yacht cruise. He'd planned it as a surprise celebration, chartering a 100-footer for a week in the Pacific. Family time. He'd called it, insisting Vanessa join since Mom passed last year, leaving just the 3 of us to bond. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the tablet. Work was piling up, but he'd guilted me. "You deserve a break, Em, we've all been through a lot." I nodded, forcing a smile, but a twinge of unease settled in my gut. Lately, Derek's touches lingered too long, his questions about Nextlify probing deeper, passwords, board members' names. I'd brushed it off as interest, but now, in hindsight, it felt like reconnaissance. I headed to my home office, the door clicking shut behind me, and sank into my ergonomic chair, the leather cool against my back. Screens lit up, dual monitors showing dashboards, stock tickers blinking. I dialed Mia, my assistant, on speaker. "Status on the IPO docs?" I asked, my pen tapping the desk. Her voice crackled through. "All green, but legal wants your sign-off on the fraud clauses." Fraud. The word hung, innocuous then. I signed digitally, my cursor dragging while outside, waves crashed rhythmically. Vanessa arrived around noon, her SUV crunching gravel in the driveway. I heard her heels clicking up the steps, then her laugh mingling with Derek's in the foyer. I stepped out, smoothing my blouse, and found them in the living room, bags scattered, designer luggage for the trip. Vanessa turned, her smile wide but her eyes sharp, like a predator sizing up prey. "Emma? Ready for some R&R?" She hugged me, her embrace brief, perfunctory, her perfume floral and overpowering. Derek watched us, his arms crossed, a faint smirk playing on his lips. We packed together, folding clothes into suitcases on the coffee table. Vanessa held up a bikini, dangling it from her finger. "This'll look great on you, sis. Loosen up a bit." Her tone was light but laced with something. Envy? Mockery? I took it, my fingers brushing hers, noticing her nails freshly manicured, red like blood. As we worked, conversation flowed but undercurrents tugged. Derek mentioned finances casually. "With the IPO we'll be set, right? Maybe diversify some assets." He zipped a bag, his knuckles whitening on the handle. Vanessa chimed in, folding a scarf with precise creases. "Yeah, Emma, you've got the Midas touch. Share the wealth?" They laughed, but I paused, stacking shirts, my hands stilling. It wasn't new, their hints for loans, investments, but today it felt insistent. I changed the subject. "The cruise confirmed? Captain reliable?" Derek nodded, his eyes meeting mine for a beat too long. "All set, trust me." Trust. The word echoed as I excused myself to the kitchen for water, my throat suddenly dry. Afternoon bled into evening, the sun dipping low, painting the sky orange. I took a walk on the beach to clear my head, sand shifting under my bare feet, the tide pulling at my ankles. Shells crunched as I picked one up, smooth and iridescent, turning it in my palm. Nextlify's deal loomed. Life-changing, not just for me but for the team who'd believed in the vision. Calls came in, investors confirming, Mia texting updates, but doubts nagged. Derek's recent late nights, Vanessa's unannounced visits. Last week, I'd overheard them whispering in the study, voices low, cutting off when I entered. "Just planning the trip," they'd said, but their faces flushed, guilty. Back home, dinner was tense. We sat at the outdoor patio, candles flickering in the breeze, plates of grilled salmon cooling. Derek poured wine, his pour generous for me, light for himself. To new beginnings, he toasted, clinking glasses. Vanessa echoed, her gaze lingering on my ring, the diamond he'd given me years ago. Conversation turned to memories, Dad's business lessons, Mom's parties. But Vanessa steered it. You always were the workhorse, Emma. Derek and I were the visionaries. She winked, but her fork scraped the plate harshly. Derek laughed, his hand covering mine on the table, thumb stroking my skin. A gesture once affectionate, now possessive. I pulled away subtly, sipping water instead of wine. Nexlifies the vision, I said quietly, my eyes on the horizon. They exchanged a glance, quick, loaded. The rest of the meal passed in small talk, but the air thickened like humidity before rain. Later, in bed, Derek rolled toward me, his breath even, but I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan's slow spin. Something shifted. Their alliance felt tighter, excluding me. I checked my phone under the covers, emailing Mia. Double-check access logs. Paranoia? Maybe. But as sleep evaded me, the ocean's roar outside sounded like a warning. In the fishing boat now, as they bundled me below deck, handing me dry clothes that smelled of fish and salt, those pre-trip moments crystallized. I'd sensed the deception, the plot forming like clouds on the eve of a storm. But I'd boarded anyway, blind to the depth of their greed. No more. As the boat chugged toward shore, my resolve hardened. I'd heal, gather proof, and make them pay. The fishing boat's engine sputtered as we neared the rocky coastline, the first hints of dawn painting the sky in pale streaks, and the fishermen's concerned murmurs faded into the background while I huddled in the blanket, my teeth chattering less from cold now and more from the adrenaline crash. One of them offered me a battered phone to call for help, but I waved it off, my voice hoarse as I asked for a moment alone below deck. In that cramped cabin, smelling of diesel and salt, I let my head fall back against the bulkhead, closing my eyes, and the memories flooded in sharper than before. Not just the eve of the trip, but the very start of it, when I'd first stepped aboard the yacht, oblivious to how the mockery would build like a gathering wave, crashing over me in waves of sarcasm and veiled insults during those initial hours of cocktails and dinner. It had begun at the marina in San Diego, the sun high and relentless, glinting off the white hulls of moored vessels as I pulled up in my Tesla, the tires humming softly on the asphalt. I'd parked, grabbed my overnight bag from the trunk, lightly packed with essentials, a laptop tucked in despite Derek's pleas to unplug, and walked down the dock, my sandals slapping against the wooden planks. The air was thick with sea salt and fuel, seagulls wheeling overhead with sharp cries. The yacht loomed ahead, serendipity scripted in gold on its side, a 100-foot beauty Derek had chartered through one of his connections. He stood at the gangplank, waving me over, his polo shirt crisp, sunglasses perched on his head. Vanessa was beside him, in oversized shades and a flowing sundress, her posture relaxed but her smile too practiced, like she'd rehearsed it in a mirror. "Finally made it, Em," Derek called out, his tone light but with an undercurrent I couldn't place then, impatience maybe. He extended a hand to help me aboard, his grip firm, fingers squeezing just a tad too hard as I stepped onto the teak deck. I steadied myself, the boat rocking gently, and he pulled me into a quick hug, his cologne sharp against the ocean breeze. "Thought work might keep you chained to the desk again." There it was, the first jab, wrapped in a chuckle. I pulled back, adjusting my bag strap on my shoulder, feeling the crew's eyes on us, two stewards in white uniforms nodding politely as they took my luggage below. Vanessa leaned in for an air kiss, her cheek barely brushing mine. "Yes, sis, we were about to sail without you. Can't let those algorithms run your life forever." Her laugh tinkled, but her eyes flicked to my simple jeans and blouse, a subtle scan that made me self-conscious. I forced a smile, tucking my hair behind my ear. "Wouldn't miss it. This is supposed to be a celebration, right?" They exchanged a glance, quick, almost imperceptible, and Derek clapped his hands. "Absolutely. Let's get you a drink. Cocktails on the upper deck." We climbed the stairs, the rails smooth under my palm, and emerged into a lounge area with plush couches and a bar setup, ice clinking in a bucket as a bartender mixed drinks. The Pacific stretched out endlessly, blue and inviting. Derek handed me a martini, olives bobbing, his fingers lingering on the glass stem. To Emma, the workaholic queen. He raised his own glass, gin and tonic sweating in the heat. Vanessa grabbed a colorful cocktail, straw twirling between her fingers. Cheers to that. Though honestly, Em, when's the last time you had fun? All those board meetings must be exhausting. She sipped, her lips pursing around the straw, eyes narrowing playfully, but the words landed like pinpricks. I took a small sip, the gin bitter on my tongue, and set the glass on a side table, its base leaving a wet ring on the polished wood. It's rewarding, I said, leaning against the railing, the metal warm from the sun. Nexlify's changing things, making supply chains smarter, more efficient. Derek snorted softly, settling onto a couch, legs crossed. Sure, but at what cost? You barely sleep. Vanessa here's got her firm running like clockwork, and she still makes time for yoga retreats. Vanessa nodded, perching beside him, her hand resting casually on his knee. A sibling-like gesture, but it irked me, too familiar. Exactly. My last campaign? Wrapped it up early, jetted to Bali. You should try delegating, Em. Not everything needs your genius touch. The air quotes she made with her fingers hung in the air, mocking. The sarcasm escalated as more guests arrived, Derek's business associates, a few of Vanessa's socialite friends, mingling with hellos and backslaps. I tried to join conversations, introducing myself, but they'd steer it back. One guy, balding with a gold watch, clapped Derek on the back. Heard your wife's the brains behind some tech thing. Impressive, but hey, leave the hustling to us men, right? Laughter rippled, and Derek joined in, his eyes on me, gauging. I clenched my jaw, nails digging into my palms, but kept my voice steady. It's more than a thing. We're pre-IPO, revolutionizing logistics. Vanessa rolled her eyes subtly, stirring her drink. Oh, come on, sis. Ambition's great, but it's unnecessary sometimes. You've got enough. Why push so hard? Live a little. The crew announced, cocktails were flowing, trays circulating with hors d'oeuvres, shrimp skewers, cheese puffs. I picked at one, the flaky pastry crumbling in my fingers, while the group clustered. Derek pulled me aside briefly, his breath warm on my ear. They're just teasing, Em, lighten up. But his smile didn't reach his eyes, and when he returned to the group, he launched into a story about Vanessa's latest deal. His gestures animated, voice booming. She closed it in under a week, pure talent. Applause followed, glasses clinking, while I stood on the edge, my martini warming in my hand. Vanessa caught my eye, winking. See? Balance. Your ambitions are cute, but exhausting everyone around you. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the deck, the mockery built layers. Questions came like darts. So Emma, ever regret not going the easy route like Vanessa? From one friend, her lipstick-smudged glass tilting. Backhanded compliments piled on. You're so dedicated, must be why you look so tired, Derek said, his hand brushing my arm, concern feigned. I deflected, my responses clipped, but inside frustration simmered, my foot tapping restlessly against the deck. Why invite me just to belittle? The bartender refilled drinks, his pours generous, and I switched to water, sensing the edge in the air sharpening. Dinner was called as we motored out to sea, the yacht's engines humming beneath us. We descended to the dining deck, the table set with crystal and linens fluttering in the breeze. I took my seat, unfolding my napkin with deliberate folds, the fabric crisp in my lap. The first course arrived, salad with vinaigrette drizzling, and the barrage continued seamlessly. Vanessa speared a leaf, chewing slowly. Emma's probably calculating the carbon footprint of this meal right now. Always the overthinker. Laughter again, forks tinkling. Derek nodded. Cutting into his portion. True. But seriously, Em, your drive's admirable, until it isolates you. His words hung, the group quieting, eyes on me. I met his gaze, my fork pausing midair, a droplet of dressing falling to the plate with a soft plop. The condescension peaked there, each comment chipping away, my responses growing shorter, my hands fisting under the table. Little did I know, it was all prelude to their real plan, the drugs waiting in my next drink. The candle flames danced erratically in the growing wind as the yacht cut through the darkening Pacific, casting flickering shadows across the dining table where plates were half cleared and wine glasses stood like sentinels. My water glass sweated in my hand, the condensation slick under my fingers, as I set it down carefully, avoiding the gaze of the group still chuckling at Derek's latest quip about my isolation. The air felt thicker now, the salt breeze carrying a chill that matched the shift in their tones, from playful jabs to something sharper. more deliberate. Vanessa pushed her plate away, the china scraping softly against the tablecloth, and leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs with a deliberate swish of fabric. Her eyes locked on mine, no longer veiled in humor, but hard like polished stones. Derek mirrored her, his fork clattering to his plate as he wiped his mouth with a napkin, folding it precisely before placing it beside him. The other guests, his associates, her friends, fell quiet, sensing the pivot, their smiles fading into awkward neutrality as they fiddled with stems or glanced at the horizon. "Emma," Derek started, his voice low and measured, like he was delivering a boardroom verdict. He steepled his fingers, elbows on the table, leaning forward just enough to invade my space without touching. "We've been thinking, Vanessa and I, about how things have been going." My stomach twisted, a slow knot forming as I straightened in my seat, the wicker back pressing into my spine. What was this? Another round of advice? But his expression was different, calculated, devoid of the mock concern from earlier. Vanessa nodded subtly, her lips pressing into a thin line, her hand reaching for her wineglass but not lifting it, just tracing the rim with a manicured nail, the soft scrape audible in the hush. I glanced around the table, noting how the crew hovered at the edges, clearing side plates with hushed efficiency, their eyes downcast. One steward's hand trembled slightly as he collected a butter knife, clinking it against a saucer. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice steady despite the pulse quickening in my neck. I folded my hands in my lap, fingers interlocking tightly, knuckles paling. Derek sighed, a performative exhale, his shoulders rising and falling. "Your work, Nexlify, it's consumed you, us, the family." He gestured vaguely between himself, Vanessa and me, as if we were some unbreakable unit. Vanessa chimed in, her tone silky but edged. "It's not just that, sis. You've changed, become distant, obsessed. We're worried it's tearing everything apart." The words hung and I felt the group's eyes on me, a collective weight pressing down. One associate shifted in his seat, the chair creaking, while a friend of Vanessa's toyed with her earring, avoiding my gaze. I opened my mouth to respond, but Derek cut me off, his hand raising slightly, palm out. "Let me finish. We've talked extensively, and we've decided it's time for a clean break." My breath caught a sharp inhale as my mind raced. A break? From what? Our marriage? The family ties? Vanessa leaned in, her elbows on the table now, mirroring Derek's posture. "You're out, Emma. Disowned, essentially. We can't keep enabling this isolation. Your inheritance, the company shares you've funneled through family trusts, it's all going to be redirected to us, for safekeeping." The announcement landed like a physical blow, my chest tightening as if squeezed by an invisible vice. Disowned. The word echoed in my head, absurd yet final. I stared at Derek, searching his face for a crack, a hint of jest, but his eyes were flat, resolute. His jaw set, a muscle twitching faintly under the skin. Vanessa's expression matched, her mouth curving into a small, satisfied smile that she quickly masked by sipping her wine, the liquid sloshing gently. "It's for your own good," she added, setting the glass down with a deliberate clink. "Step away from Nexlify, let professionals handle it. You've built it, sure, but now it's time to let go. We'll manage the transition, power of attorney, all that. You've signed enough docs over the years." My hands unclenched in my lap, then reclenched, nails biting into palms. The table blurred slightly at the edges, anger rising hot in my throat. "You can't do that," I said, my voice low, controlled but laced with steel. "Nexlify is mine, the trusts are protected." Derek chuckled softly, a sound without warmth as he reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a folded paper, legal-looking, edges crisp. He slid it across the table, his fingers lingering on it before withdrawing. "Actually, we can. Remember those forms last month? The routine updates for the family estate? You were so busy you barely glanced." I snatched the paper, unfolding it with shaking hands, the print swimming before my eyes. Clauses about relinquishing control, emergency provisions for incapacity. My signature at the bottom, scrawled in haste during a late-night signing session he'd insisted on. Betrayal surged, my heart pounding audibly in my ears. The guests murmured now, low whispers like rustling leaves, one clearing his throat uncomfortably. Vanessa watched me, her head tilted slightly, a predatory gleam in her eyes. "Don't make this harder, Em. Sign over the rest tonight, and we can all move on. You're disposable in this setup. Your words, remember? From that email about streamlining staff." She twisted my own corporate lingo against me, her voice dripping with false sympathy. Derek nodded, his foot tapping under the table. A rhythmic thump I felt through the deck. It's done. You're cut off from the money, the support, us. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping back with a harsh grind, napkin tumbling to the floor. The paper crumpled in my fist as I glared between them. This is insane. You're not family, you're thieves. The word escaped before I could stop it, hanging in the air. Derek's face hardened, his chair pushing back as he rose too, towering slightly. Careful, Em, we're just protecting what's ours. Vanessa remained seated, but her hand clenched the table edge, knuckles whitening. The crew paused in their tasks, one dropping a plate with a clatter that shattered the tension momentarily. In that charged silence I turned to leave, my legs unsteady, but Derek's hand shot out, grabbing my wrist, not hard, but firm enough to halt me. Sit. We're not done. I yanked free, rubbing the skin, red marks blooming. The announcement wasn't just words, it was a declaration of war, their faces masks of greed unveiled. Little did I realize as I stormed toward the stairs that cut off meant more than finances, it meant erasing me entirely, the plot thickening in whispers behind me. But overhearing came next, in the shadows below deck, where their true verdict would seal my fate. The stairs descended into the yacht's dimly lit lower deck, my footsteps echoing hollowly against the polished wood as I gripped the handrail, my crumpled paper still fisted in one hand, the edges biting into my palm. Anger propelled me forward, but a wave of dizziness hit halfway down, my vision spotting at the edges, the walls seeming to tilt like the boat in rough seas. I paused, leaning against the bulkhead, my breath shallow and ragged, the taste of something metallic lingering on my tongue from dinner. Had it been the wine? The salad? No, I'd stuck to water after the first sip. Up above, the dinner conversation resumed in murmurs, laughter trickling down like distant thunder, but closer, in the shadows of the corridor leading to our cabins, voices carried, low, urgent, unmistakable. Derek and Vanessa, slipping away from the table moments after me, their words slicing through the hum of the engines. I froze, my back pressing flat against the cool paneling, the vibration of the yacht thrumming through my body. My phone was in my pocket, a reassuring weight, but I didn't dare move yet. Derek's voice came first, hushed but intense. She bought it, the docks, the disowning, perfect setup. Footsteps shuffled closer, their shadows elongating under the recessed lights. Vanessa's reply was a soft hiss, her tone laced with glee. About time, drugs kicking in now, that extra pour in her water, she'll be out cold soon. One push over the rail and it's done. Inheritance ours, company liquidated through the trusts, no loose ends. My heart slammed against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat as I processed. Murder. Not just theft, but erasing me entirely. Derek chuckled lowly, his hand likely on her arm from the rustle of fabric. Yeah, disposable, like she calls her staff. Pacific's deep here, no body, no crime. Presumed accident, we collect. Terror flooded me, my limbs heavy from whatever they'd slipped me, but adrenaline surged, sharpening my senses. I backed away slowly, my sneaker soles silent on the carpet, inching toward the guest cabin door. My fingers fumbled for my phone, sliding it out with trembling hands, the screen's glow harsh in the dimness. I thumbed to Mia's contact, my assistant, loyal through years of late nights and crises. The voices grew nearer, their plan unfolding in whispers. Wait till the guests are drunk or midnight. I'll lure her to the stern, you handle the push. Vanessa's laugh, cold and sharp. I hit call, cupping the phone to my mouth, my voice a bare whisper as it connected after one ring. Mia, I breathed, ducking into the cabin, easing the door shut with a soft click. Emergency. Derek and Vanessa, plotting to kill me. On the yacht. Drugged. Track my location. Alert authorities quietly. Gather evidence, financials, accesses. I'm going over. The door burst open before I could finish, Derek's frame filling the threshold, his face twisted in surprise then rage. What the hell? He snarled, lunging forward, his hand clamping over my mouth as Vanessa appeared behind him, her eyes wide but calculating. I struggled, my free arm flailing, phone dropping to the floor with a thud, the call still live, Mia's voice tinny. Emma? Emma, I'm on it. Tracking now, teams mobilizing. Derek kicked the phone away, it skittering under the bed, his grip iron on my wrist as he dragged me out. You heard, Vanessa spat, grabbing my other arm, her nails digging in like claws. The drug haze thickened, my legs buckling, but I fought, twisting, my elbow connecting with Derek's side in a dull thump. He grunted, shoving harder, propelling me up the stairs toward the deck. The night air hit like a slap, stars wheeling overhead as they hauled me to the stern, away from the lingering guests whose laughter floated from the bow. The rail loomed, cold metal under my palms as I gripped it instinctively, the ocean black and churning below. "Should have signed over quietly," Derek growled, his breath hot on my neck, hands prying my fingers free one by one. Vanessa pressed against my back, her weight adding force. "Bye, sis. Enjoy the swim." With a final heave, they pushed, my body tipping, weightless for a split second, then plummeting. Wind rushed past, my scream swallowed by the splash as I hit the water, icy shock engulfing me. I surfaced sputtering, the yacht's lights receding as the current pulled me away, my arms thrashing to stay afloat. The drug dragged at me, limbs leaden, but Mia's call, that frantic connection, changed everything. She'd heard enough, her quick thinking activating protocols we'd set for crises. Geo-tracking my phone, alerting my core team, pulling server logs of any unauthorized accesses. As I kicked against the waves, salt stinging my eyes, I clung to that. The scale of my success wasn't just billions, it was the network I'd built. Loyal, discreet, ready. They'd presumed me dead, but that call ensured my resurrection, evidence compiling even now. Transaction trails, emails, the forged docs. Exhaustion clawed but resolve burned. I'd survive, expose them, reclaim it all. In that endless dark, each stroke toward distant lights was fueled by the call's echo, Mia's voice a lifeline. The fishermen's boats bobbed closer, shouts piercing the night, and as rough hands pulled me aboard, I whispered thanks, knowing the real rescue was already in motion ashore. The fisherman's boat rocked gently as it docked at a small weathered pier in a remote Mexican fishing village, the first rays of sun piercing the horizon like shards of glass, illuminating the cluster of tin-roofed shacks and nets drying on lines. My body ached, every muscle screaming from the swim, the drug's remnants fogging my thoughts. But I forced myself upright on the bench, the blanket slipping from my shoulders. The captain, a grizzled man with salt-crusted beard and kind eyes, helped me stand, his calloused hand steady on my elbow. "Senora, hospital?" he asked in broken English, concern etching deeper lines on his face. His crew hovered, murmuring among themselves, one holding out a bottle of water that I took with numb fingers, the plastic crinkling as I unscrewed the cap. Water trickled down my chin as I drank, cool and reviving, but my mind was already sharpening, piecing together the next steps. They thought I was dead, Derek and Vanessa, sailing away on that yacht, toasting their tragic loss. But I wasn't gone, I was a ghost now, ready to haunt them. I shook my head at the hospital suggestion, my voice raspy from salt water. "No! Police? Telefono?" The captain nodded, leading me to a tiny office shack at the pier's end, the door creaking on rusty hinges. Inside, dust motes danced in the light filtering through a grimy window, and he handed me an old landline phone, its cord tangled. I dialed Mia's number from memory, my fingers punching keys deliberately, each beep echoing in the quiet. She picked up on the first ring, her voice a mix of relief and urgency. "Emma, oh God, we tracked your phone signal until it cut out. Are you safe?" I leaned against the wooden desk, its edge digging into my hip, and whispered, "Alive. Fishermen rescued me. They're good people. Keep this off record for now." Mia exhaled sharply, keyboard clacks in the background. "Team's on it. We've got prelim evidence, unauthorized logins to your accounts from Derek's IP, transfers to Vanessa's shell companies, frauds blatant, cops are looped in discreetly, yachts being monitored." The rescuer's shock rippled through me as I hung up, their wide eyes following my every move. The captain had pieced together enough from my soaked clothes and frantic state. "Accidente? Marido?" he probed gently, offering a chair that groaned under my weight. I nodded vaguely, not ready to spill details, but their kindness grounded me. One brought dry fisherman's overalls, rough but warm, and I changed in a back room, the fabric scratching my skin as I peeled off my ruined dress. Emerging, I saw their faces, pity mixed with awe, perhaps sensing the gravity. "Gracias," I said, clasping the captain's hand, feeling the rough texture of his palm. They didn't pry further, but their hushed tones as they brewed coffee in a dented pot told me they knew this wasn't a simple mishap. The aroma filled the shack, strong and bitter, and I cupped a mug, steam warming my face as resolve solidified. I'd fake my death, Let them believe their plan worked, then strike from the shadows. Calm washed over me, surprising in its clarity as I sat there plotting. No rage-fueled screams, just methodical steps like debugging code. First, vanish. Mia would arrange a private flight from a nearby airstrip, no passport checks, cash-greased wheels. I'd hole up in a safe house, one of Nexlify's off-grid properties in the Sierras, equipped with secure servers. From there, expose their hypocrisy, years of leeching off my success while plotting my end. I recalled specifics, my mind cataloging like a database. Derek's consulting firm? Funded by my early investments, yet he'd siphoned funds, emails showing transfers to offshore accounts. Vanessa's empowerment brand? Built on my tech backbone, I'd coded her initial platform for free, only for her to claim credit, now embezzling through joint family trusts. The forged docs from dinner? Mia's team would trace signatures, prove coercion. Their scramble would be delicious. News of my death hitting wires. Them playing grieving heirs, rushing to claim assets, only for evidence to surface, arrests following. I paced the shack's creaky floorboards, my borrowed boots thumping softly, as I verbalized the plan to myself in whispers. Let them celebrate, I muttered, fingers tracing a map on the desk, smudged with fish scales. Announce the IPO posthumously. Stock soars, they dive in. Then drop the bomb. Wire transfers, recorded calls, their whispers on the yacht if Mia hacked the security cams. The captain watched, offering a nod of understanding despite the language barrier, his pipe smoke curling lazily. Hypocrisy burned brightest in memory. Derek's vows, for richer or poorer, twisted into greed. Vanessa's sisterly hugs masking jealousy. I'd expose it all. Press conference from hiding, anonymous leaks to media, FBI tips on fraud spanning millions. No mercy, twice the pain for their betrayal, satisfaction in their downfall. Mia texted updates, yacht docked in LA. They're acting shocked, calling lawyers. Evidence mounting, bank records show $5 million diverted last week. I smirked faintly, pocketing the burner phone she'd remotely activated. The fisherman arranged a truck ride to the airstrip, an old pickup rattling over dirt roads, dust billowing behind. I sat in the back, wind whipping my hair as the village receded. At the strip, a small prop plane waited, pilot a Nexlify contact, his handshake firm. "Ma'am, we're clear." I boarded, the door sealing with a thud, and as we taxied, I gazed out the window, ocean glittering below. My grave, their mistake. In flight, turbulence jostled me, but I stayed calm, laptop from the plane stash open on my lap, fingers flying over keys. I accessed secure drives, pulling files, spreadsheets of discrepancies, timestamps matching their accesses. One email chain stood out, Derek to Vanessa. Once she's out, split 50-50. Her empire's ours. Hypocrisy laid bare. I'd compile a dossier, share with authorities anonymously, then watch from afar as cuffs clicked, headlines blared, "Billionaire's death unravels murder plot." My exit from their lives? Powerful, permanent, new identity if needed, but Nexlify reborn under my ghost command. Landing in the Sierras, a black SUV waited, Mia at the wheel, her face pale but determined. She hugged me fiercely, her arms trembling. "We got them, Emma." I nodded, sliding into the passenger seat, the door clicking shut like a final punctuation. As we drove winding roads to the safe house, pines blurring past, I rejected their betrayal fully. No looking back, only forward to exposure. Vanishing into hiding felt like shedding skin, emerging stronger, plan set in motion. The SUV's tires crunched over gravel as we pulled up to the safe house, a secluded cabin nestled among towering pines, its wooden exterior blending seamlessly with the forest shadows under the midday sun. Mia killed the engine, the sudden silence amplifying the rustle of leaves and distant bird calls, and I stepped out, my borrowed boots sinking slightly into the soft earth. The air was crisp, scented with resin and earth, a far cry from the salty tang of the ocean that still clung to my skin. Mia grabbed a duffel from the back, slinging it over her shoulder with a determined heft, her keys jingling as she unlocked the door. "Home sweet hideout," she said, her voice light but her eyes scanning the tree line out of habit. I followed her inside, the door creaking shut behind us, sealing out the world, and for the first time since the plunge, a sliver of warmth pierced the numbness, a genuine refuge with people who saw me, not my fortune. The living room opened up, rustic but equipped, a stone fireplace crackling with a fresh fire. Mia must have arranged remotely, plush couches arranged in a circle, and a long wooden table already set with laptops, monitors flickering with data streams. My team was there. My chosen family, the ones who'd built Nextlify brick by digital brick alongside me. There was Raj, our lead engineer, hunched over a keyboard, his glasses slipping down his nose as he typed furiously, fingers dancing like they were playing a piano concerto. Lena, the financial whiz, paced near the window, phone pressed to her ear, her free hand gesturing emphatically, curls bouncing with each step. And Carlos, security expert, standing guard by the door, arms crossed over his broad chest, his nod to me silent but loaded with relief. They dropped everything when Mia's alert hit, converging here in hours, their loyalty a stark contrast to the blood ties that had tried to drown me. Mia set the duffel down with a thud, unzipping it to reveal stacks of printed reports, her movements efficient, practiced. "Everyone, she's here," she announced, her voice cutting through the low hum of conversation. Heads turned, and the room stilled for a beat, then erupted in motion. Raj pushed back from his chair, the wheels squeaking on the hardwood, and stood, his lanky frame unfolding as he crossed the room in 3 strides. "Emma," he said, pulling me into a hug. Awkward. Brief but real, his shirt smelling faintly of coffee and solder. I stiffened at first, unused to the contact after the betrayal's chill, but then leaned in, feeling the solid thump of his back under my palm. "We thought, God, we're glad you're okay." His voice cracked slightly, and he pulled away, adjusting his glasses to hide the sheen in his eyes. Lena hung up her call mid-sentence, the phone clicking shut in her hand, and rushed over, her heels clicking sharply. She enveloped me in a fiercer embrace, her arms strong, squeezing just enough to convey the fear she'd bottled up. "You scared the hell out of us," she whispered, her breath warm against my ear, then stepped back, hands on my shoulders, scanning my face like a mother hen. Her eyes, usually sharp with numbers, softened with unshed tears. "But look at you, tough as nails, sit. Eat something." She guided me to the couch, her touch gentle on my arm, and I sank into the cushions, the fabric soft and yielding, a world away from the yacht's rigid deck chairs. Carlos approached last, his steps measured, deliberate, like he was assessing threats even now. He didn't hug, not his style, but extended a hand, his grip firm, calloused from years of field work. "Boss," he said simply, his deep voice rumbling, and in that one word, respect echoed louder than any family proclamation. He squeezed once, then released, his other hand patting my shoulder briefly, the gesture weighted with unspoken solidarity. The team gathered around, pulling chairs closer with scrapes and thuds, forming a tight circle that felt protective, inclusive. Mia busied herself in the kitchenette, clattering plates and utensils, emerging with a tray of sandwiches. Simple turkey and cheese on whole grain, steam rising from a mug of soup. "Fuel up," she said, setting it on the coffee table, her fingers brushing mine as she handed me the mug, the ceramic warm against my chilled skin. We didn't dive straight into plans, instead, the moment stretched into genuine connection. A balm against the toxic dinner's venom. Raj started it, leaning forward, elbows on knees, his hands clasped. "Remember that all-nighter in the old office, when the servers crashed right before demo day?" He chuckled, the sound light, easing the tension. I nodded, sipping the soup, tomato, tangy and comforting, feeling the heat spread through me. "You coded the fix while we panicked, saved our asses." Lena jumped in, crossing her legs, her foot tapping rhythmically. "And the funding round? I was sweating bullets over the projections, but you spotted the error in my spreadsheet at 3 a.m., turned it around." Her smile was wide, genuine, no backhanded edge like Vanessa's compliments. Carlos grunted approval, his arms still crossed but posture relaxed. "Security breach last year, you trusted my gut, let me lock it down, no questions." The stories flowed, each one a thread weaving us tighter, their voices overlapping in easy harmony. Mia shared how I'd mentored her from intern to right hand, her hand gesturing with the enthusiasm of recounting a victory. I listened, my spoon pausing mid-stir, emotions rising not as pity, but as quiet strength. These weren't blood relatives, but chosen allies who'd celebrated my wins without envy, supported through failures without judgment. Unlike the yacht dinner, where every word was a barb, Derek's toasts laced with greed, Vanessa's laughs masking schemes, here the air hummed with authenticity. Raj's excited gestures as he mimed typing code, Lena's warm pat on my knee during a pause, Carlos's subtle nod. They built me up, not tore down. Tears pricked unexpectedly, and I set the mug down, the clink soft on the wood. "You guys, you're the real family," I said, voice thick, my hand wiping at my eyes. They didn't dismiss it. Raj squeezed my shoulder. Lena handed me a tissue from her pocket, folded neatly. The contrast hit harder then. The biological bonds that had poisoned me versus this chosen circle, warm and unwavering. As the fire popped and crackled, casting golden flickers across their faces, I felt seen, valued for me, not my empire. It fueled the fire within. We'd dismantle Derek and Vanessa's hypocrisy together, but first this moment, healing in its simplicity, a foundation for the fight ahead. The fire's glow faded as evening deepened in the safe house, shadows lengthening across the wooden beams, and the team dispersed to their tasks. Raj back to his screens, fingers clacking steadily on the keyboard. Lena sorting through printouts on the table, her pen scratching notes in the margins. Carlos checking perimeter cams on his tablet, his brow furrowed in concentration. Mia lingered by my side on the couch, her laptop balanced on her knees, screen casting a blue hue on her face as she pulled up more files. I set the empty soup mug aside, the ceramic cool now, and stood, my legs still wobbly from the ordeal but gaining strength with each step. The warmth from the reunion lingered, a buffer against the chaos, but the aftermath pressed in. The news cycles churning my death, Derek and Vanessa's feigned grief playing out in real time. I paced to the window, parting the heavy curtains just enough to glimpse the darkening forest, pines swaying gently in the wind. Handling this mess meant building walls, not just around the cabin but around my life, new boundaries to protect what remained of me. Mia glanced up, her typing pausing. "Media's exploding," she said, turning her screen toward me. Headlines scrolled. Tech mogul Emma Smith presumed dead after yacht accident. Photos of the Serendipity docked in LA, Derek's arm around Vanessa at a presser, their faces somber, eyes dry. I leaned in, my hand gripping the windowsill, nails digging into the wood. "They're moving fast, lawyers filing claims on the estate already." Rage simmered, but I breathed deep, the pine scent grounding me. No rash moves, this was chess, not a brawl. "Lock it down," I instructed, my voice firm. "Freeze all accounts, revoke accesses. Notify the board, I'm alive but silent. Use the emergency protocols." Mia nodded, her fingers flying again, commands executing with soft beeps. The team reconvened around the table as night fell, a pizza delivery arranged anonymously, arriving in a plain box, steam escaping as Carlos sliced it with a pocket knife, the blade glinting under the overhead light. We ate standing, grease spotting napkins while mapping the aftermath. Raj projected a timeline on the wall, his laser pointer dancing across dates. Day 1, your disappearance. Day 2, they petitioned probate. We've got intercepts showing their emails to bankers. I wiped my hands, crumpling the napkin in my fist. Good. Now, boundaries, no contact with outsiders. Comms through encrypted channels only, personal lives on hold, paid leave for families, relocation if needed. Heads nodded. No protests. Their commitment was ironclad, eyes meeting mine with resolve. I handled my own turmoil in quiet moments, slipping away to the back porch after dinner, the screen door creaking shut behind me. Stars pierced the black sky, crisp air nipping at my skin as I wrapped my arms around myself, the borrowed sweater loose on my frame. Flashbacks hit, Derek's push, Vanessa's sneer. But I pushed back, focusing on breath. In through nose, out through mouth, the rhythm steadying. Therapy apps on my burner phone helped, guided meditations playing softly in earbuds, voice soothing. Acknowledge the pain, then release. I journaled too, a blank notebook from the duffel, pen scratching furiously. Listing betrayals, then countermeasures. Boundary 1, no forgiveness without justice. The words stared back, ink smudged from my thumb. Rebuilding meant severing ties, not just to them but to the old Emma who'd tolerated dismissals. Back inside, the team had set up a war room. Whiteboards covered in markers, strings connecting photos, Derek's headshot pinned, arrows to fraud trails, Vanessa's smiling PR pic linked to embezzlement logs. Lena walked me through finances, her finger tracing spreadsheets on her laptop, cells highlighted in red. They diverted $2 million last month alone, fake invoices through her firm. I nodded, sitting beside her, the chair scraping as I pulled it closer. File anonymous tips to IRS, SEC, but hold on arrests, build the case airtight. Carlos chimed in, his voice gravelly. Security upgraded, drones patrolling, alerts on their movements, they're at the Malibu house now, toasting with champagne. He showed footage from hacked cams, their figures blurry but unmistakable, glasses clinking. My jaw tightened, teeth grinding audibly. Boundary 2, monitor, don't engage, let them dig deeper. Sleep came fitfully that first night, in a spare room with a firm mattress. Sheets smelling of fresh laundry. I tossed, blankets tangling around my legs, dreams replaying the plunge, cold water, their faces laughing. Waking in sweat, I padded to the kitchen at 3 a.m., the floor cold under bare feet, and brewed tea, kettle whistling softly. Mia found me there, rubbing sleep from her eyes, robe tied loosely. "Can't sleep?" she asked, pouring herself a cup, steam curling between us. I shook my head, stirring honey in with a spoon, the metal tinkling against porcelain. Setting rules for myself, no revenge fantasies, focus on healing. She touched my arm, her hand warm. "Smart, we're here for that too." Days blurred into a routine, boundaries solidifying like code compiling. Mornings, yoga on the porch, my mat unrolling with a thud, poses stretching sore muscles, breath syncing with bird calls. Afternoons, evidence dives, my fingers scrolling touchpads highlighting anomalies, Derek's secret meetings with shady investors, Vanessa's lavish spends on my dime. Evenings, team debriefs, laughter mixing with strategy, Raj's jokes lightening the load. I established personal rules. Daily walks in the woods, boots crunching leaves, mind clearing, no news without filters, Mia curated clips sparing graphic speculation. Boundary 3, protect my peace. When doubt crept, did I miss them? I countered with facts, reading compiled chats, their plots dating back years, greed festering. One tense call tested it, Mia's phone buzzing with an unknown number, traced to a burner. She put it on speaker, the team gathering. Derek's voice crackled. "Mia, it's Derek, Emma's gone. We need access to her files for the estate." His tone feigned sorrow, but I caught the edge, impatient. Vanessa in the background. "Tell her it's urgent." I signaled Mia to respond coolly. All handled through lawyers, no comment. Click. The line died, and I exhaled, fists unclenching on the table. Good, no direct engagement. Carlos grinned faintly, patting his laptop. Their location pinged. Hotel in Vegas, celebrating prematurely. As weeks passed, the boundaries became fortress walls. I restructured Nexlify remotely, promoting loyalists, my emails encrypted, decisions crisp, personal assets frozen, their attempts bouncing like bad checks. Healing crept in, therapy sessions via secure video, counselor's voice calm, reclaim your narrative. I did. Journaling evolving to plans, philanthropy trusts in my name, away from family taint. The aftermath wasn't just survival, it was reinvention. Rules etched deep. No more invisibility, only empowered choices. Reinvention took root in those quiet Sierra mornings, where the first light filtered through the pines like threads of gold, casting patterns on the cabin floor as I sipped coffee at the kitchen table, my mug steaming in the chill air. The boundaries I'd set held firm, a shield against the world's clamor, but now it was time to wield my success like a tool, not just for survival, but to forge something lasting. Reclaiming the Smith name from the shadows of betrayal, turning it into a beacon of impact rather than greed. That day, as the team gathered for our daily briefing, laptops humming and printers whirring softly in the background, I felt the shift. No longer hiding but stepping forward to launch the Nexlify Foundation, a nonprofit arm dedicated to empowering underrepresented tech innovators, using my billions to seed grants, mentorships, and tools that I'd once craved myself. It wasn't revenge, it was redemption, my way of honoring the grind without the poison of family ties. Mia started the meeting, her chair scraping as she pulled it up, unfolding a printed agenda with crisp folds, her pen clicking open. Evidence is locked. FBI's reviewing the dossier. Derek and Vanessa are scrambling, lawyers in overdrive. She passed me a tablet, screen glowing with news clips. Their faces pale at press conferences, hands gesturing defensively. I scrolled, my thumb pausing on a photo of the Malibu house, now taped off with yellow caution lines. Raj leaned in, his elbow bumping the table, coffee sloshing slightly in his cup. Stocks holding steady, boards briefed, your directives implemented. Lena added, stacking financial reports with a soft thud. Assets secure, their fraud attempts bounced like bad checks. Carlos nodded from his corner, arms crossed, his foot tapping a steady rhythm. No breaches, they're blind to our moves. I set the tablet down, the glass cool under my palm, and stood, pacing to the whiteboard where timelines branched like veins. My marker squeaked as I circled a new section. Foundation launch. We've got the leverage, I said, capping the marker with a click. But let's pivot. Nexlify isn't just profit. It's purpose. Today, we outline the foundation. $500 million initial endowment focused on women and minorities in tech. Grants for startups, coding academies in underserved areas. The team straightened, eyes lighting up. Raj's fingers twitched as if already coding the website. Brilliant. Tie it to your story, anonymous for now, but impactful. Lena jotted notes, her handwriting looping neatly. Tax structures? I can optimize. Philanthropy shields assets too. Mia smiled, her hand resting on the agenda. Reclaims the narrative, Smith as innovator, not victim. We dove in, the room buzzing with energy. I assigned tasks. Raj on the digital platform, his keyboard clattering as he sketched wireframes, lines connecting user flows. App for applicants, AI-matched mentors, he muttered, erasing a box with his sleeve, redrawing it larger. Lena crunched numbers at her laptop, spreadsheets filling the screen, cells autofilling with formulas. Endowment breakdown, 40% grants, 30% education, 30% research. She highlighted rows, colors shifting from yellow to green. Carlos handled security, his voice low as he phoned contacts, receiver pressed to ear. Encrypted submissions, vetted partners, no leaks. Mia coordinated logistics, her fingers flying over emails, attachments zipping with sends. Launch virtually, press release drafted, tied to Nexlify's IPO surge. Micro moments built the framework. My hand hovering over a grant proposal template, fingers tracing the screen as I customized fields. Personal story required, I typed, remembering my own overlooked pitches. Raj demoed a beta interface, mouse clicking through tabs, his excitement palpable in the way he leaned forward, chair creaking. See, real-time feedback loops. I tested it, cursor dragging, feeling the empowerment in each click, a far cry from family dinners where my ideas evaporated. Lena presented projections, her laser pointer dot dancing across charts projected on the wall. Impact metrics, 10,000 beneficiaries year 1. She adjusted a bar graph, data bars rising. Carlos installed firewalls, commands echoing in terminal windows, green text scrolling. Locked down, hack-proof. As hours passed, lunch arrived, sandwiches on a platter, wrappers crinkling as we ate mid-discussion. I bit into mine, cheese stringing slightly, and reflected internally. The Smith legacy had been Dad's deals, Mom's social climbs, Vanessa's superficial shine, Derek's leeching. But mine? This foundation stripped it bare, rebuilt on equity. A knot loosened in my chest, breath easier as I wiped mustard from my finger. Add a clause, I said between bites. No family nepotism, merit only. The team chuckled, but nodded seriously. Mia's eyes met mine, a silent understanding passing. She knew the weight. Afternoon deepened, sunlight slanting lower, dust motes swirling in beams. We finalized the charter, my signature digital on the dock, stylus gliding smoothly. Official, I announced, the file saving with a ping. Raj uploaded the site skeleton, server humming. Live in beta. Lena filed incorporations, stamps thumping virtually. Tax-exempt status pending, fast-tracked. Carlos ran simulations, fingers drumming as code compiled. Secure. The event coalesced around this single push. Reclaiming through creation, my success funding dreams like mine once were, untainted by blood. Emotions surfaced raw. Pride in the setup, a quiet thrill as I previewed the site, homepage loading with a spin. Emma Smith Foundation, building tomorrow's innovators. No photo of me yet, safety first, but the mission statement glowed. From isolation to impact. Tears welled, and I blinked them back, hand pressing the mouse harder. This wasn't abstract, it was concrete actions, grants wiring to bank accounts, academies breaking ground, lives changed. The family name, once a chain, now a ladder for others. Derek and Vanessa's greed had aimed to steal it, I'd multiply it. By evening, the framework stood solid. We toasted with water glasses, clinks echoing. To legacy, Mia said, her glass raised. I clinked back, cool liquid splashing slightly. Internal realization hit fully then. Worth wasn't inheritance, it was influence, wielded well. As the team packed up, laptop snapping shut, I lingered at the table, finger tracing the agenda's edges. The positive impact rippled outward. First grants targeted for release post-arrests, my terms dictating every step. Reclaimed, redefined, the Smith name mine alone. The cabin's door clicked shut behind me as I slipped out into the crisp dawn air, the forest still shrouded in mist, pines whispering secrets to the wind. It had been weeks since the foundation's framework solidified, the team's toasts echoing in my mind like a promise kept. But a restlessness tugged at me, a need for solitude beyond the war room's hum. The arrests had hit the news cycle hard. Derek and Vanessa in cuffs flashed across screens we'd monitored obsessively, their faces pale and defiant as agents led them from the Malibu house. Trials loomed, evidence we'd compiled sealing their fate. Fraud charges stacking like dominoes, murder attempt the crown jewel. Headlines screamed justice, but for me it wasn't the end, it was a doorway. I drove alone that morning, the SUV winding down mountain roads, tires humming on asphalt, radio off to let thoughts flow unchecked. The Pacific called, a pull toward the very ocean that had tried to claim me, now a symbol of rebirth. I needed to confront it, to reflect in its vastness, and find the peace that no verdict could grant. I parked at a secluded cove south of Big Sur, the lot empty save for gulls wheeling overhead, their cries sharp against the crash of waves. Locking the car with a beep, I grabbed a blanket from the trunk, soft fleece, edges frayed from use, and trudged down the sandy path, dunes shifting under my boots. The air grew saltier, wind whipping my hair as the beach opened up. Endless stretch of golden sand, meeting turquoise water, foam lacing the shore like delicate embroidery. I spread the blanket near a driftwood log, its bark weathered smooth, and sat, knees drawn up, arms wrapped around them. The sun climbed higher, warming my skin through the light jacket, but the chill inside lingered, a residue of betrayal, survival's echo. I stared at the horizon, where sea met sky in a seamless blur, and let memories surface not as wounds but as lessons. It started with breath. Deep inhales of briny air, exhales releasing tension, my shoulders dropping inch by inch. The waves rolled in rhythmic sets, crashing then retreating, mirroring the chaos I'd endured. Derek's face flashed, his charming smile twisting into greed, hands that once held mine pushing me overboard. Vanessa's laugh, once sisterly, now a venomous echo in overheard plots. I'd built an empire in shadows, overlooked yet unbreakable, but their dismissal had carved doubts deep. Was I worthy only for what I achieved? The Foundation's launch replayed. Grants wired, first recipients' thank yous flooding encrypted inboxes, their stories echoing mine. Dreamers dismissed, now empowered. It felt right, the Smith name repurposed, but as gulls dove for fish sleek and purposeful, I probed deeper. Worth wasn't in billions or justice served. It was internal, a quiet flame no one could extinguish. A shell caught my eye, half buried in sand, spiral ridges caked with grit. I dug it out, fingers sifting grains, the texture rough then smooth as I brushed it clean. Holding it to my ear, the ocean's roar amplified inside, my own pulse sinking with the tide. Flashbacks softened, childhood slights, where Vanessa shone and I faded, marriage vows hollowed by deceit. I'd fought back, evidence gathered like shells on this shore, each piece a testament to resilience. But peace? It bloomed in letting go, not forgiving them, but freeing myself from their measure. My value lay in the code I'd written alone at dawn, the team I'd chosen, the lives I'd touch. Not in family approval, never granted, but in self-validation. I was enough, always had been. Tears came unbidden, saltier than the sea, tracking down my cheeks as I set the shell aside, its pearlescent interior glinting. I wiped them with my sleeve, fabric soft against skin, and stood, walking to the water's edge. Foam tickled my boots, cold seeping through, but I didn't retreat. Instead, I waded in, ankle deep, the current tugging gently, a reminder of that nightmarish plunge. No fear now, just acceptance. The trials would drag on, testimonies, appeals, but I'd attend remotely if needed, my identity shielded until safe. Healing wasn't linear, it was this. Standing in the surf, wind tussling my hair, realizing betrayal hadn't broken me, it had revealed me. Stronger, wiser, at peace with the internal compass that had guided me through storms. Hours passed, sun arcing higher, shadows shortening on the sand. I journaled on the blanket, pen gliding over pages, gratitude lists, Mia's loyalty, Raj's ingenuity, the Foundation's first impact report showing a young coder's app going viral. Doubts surfaced. Had I been too trusting before? But I countered with truths, ink flowing steadily. As noon approached, hunger gnawed, but clarity filled me more. True value was intrinsic, the spark that built Nexlify from nothing, the will that swam toward lights in the dark. Beyond arrests, beyond rebuilding, peace settled like the tide pooling in footprints, lasting, unshakable. I folded the blanket, shaking sand free with snaps, and hiked back to the car, boots leaving imprints soon erased by wind. Driving away, the cove shrinking in the rear view, a final reflection crystallized. Life's purpose wasn't revenge or acclaim, it was this inner harmony, a quiet knowing that I defined my worth. The road ahead curved, but I navigated it with steady hands, ready for whatever came, anchored within. The arrests and trials faded into background noise as I drove back to the cabin, the sun dipping low and casting long shadows across the winding roads. Peace wasn't about forgetting the betrayal, it was about transcending it, building a life where their actions no longer held power. I turned up the radio for the first time in weeks, a soft melody filling the car, and smiled faintly at the horizon. Healing had begun, one reflective step at a time. Have you ever felt invisible in your own life, pouring everything into something only to have it dismissed by those closest to you? That's where my story started, but it ended with me reclaiming my power in ways I never imagined. Turning betrayal into a foundation for others, empowering dreamers like I once was, showed me that true strength comes from within, not from external validation or revenge. It's about rising above, creating impact that echoes far beyond the pain. So, what do you think? Did I go too far in exposing them, or not far enough in protecting myself sooner? Drop a comment below with your take, and share if you faced a similar family twist. How did you flip the script? Your stories inspire us all. Remember, no one's shade can dim your light unless you let it. Stand tall, build your empire, and know your worth is yours alone. Thanks for joining this journey. Hit that like button if it resonated, and don't forget to subscribe for more tales of triumph over toxicity. Until next time, keep shining.